The Ford XR8 Sprint is a four-door, rear-wheel drive, supercharged V8 monster from down under. And this right here is the Ford the rest of the world really wanted. Hello everyone and welcome back to another Ross review. Today we're standing next to the 2016 XR8 Sprint, and alongside this car's sibling, the XR6 Sprint, these are the last Falcons Australia ever made. Now I've actually previously reviewed an XR6 Sprint on the channel already, so if you guys want to see that video, I'll leave a link for it in the description below. Now the XR8 Sprint is a top spec, limited edition, sort of last hoorah from Ford, and only 2 countries we're lucky enough to get them. Australia receiving 750 and New Zealand receiving 100. Now this being the FGX model, Ford did give this a facelift. Obviously Ford went over some changes in their lineup and a lot of their cars got a new front end. And now I think you either love it or hate it with this. I actually think it does look quite nice. Really grown on me actually. Love the headlights, you know, these are just really nice headlights. Got a beautiful daytime running light in them and they just look really, really aggressive. And on the XR8 over the XR6, I think these have the edge because you get this beautiful bonnet bulge. So the bonnet just looks that much more aggressive, and they also get blacked out roofs on the XR8s. So just those little subtle details I think really make the XR8 look a lot better. Now just coming under the bonnet here, we've got the 5-liter supercharged V8. This is the Miami engine. And God, does this thing look good in here. This thing, you know, with its big supercharger, you know, huge airbox here. This is just a true blue muscle car. You know, you've even got your plaque here on the supercharger, which tells you what build number this is. So this is number 253 out of the 750 given to Australia. Now, power-wise, Ford says this thing from factory will make 450 horsepower and 425 pound-foot of torque. And it'll do 0 to 100 in about 4.5 seconds. Now, that's Ford's economy numbers, or minimum numbers, as I like to say. What this thing actually pumps out pretty much all the time is 537 horsepower and 480 pound-foot of torque. So now Ford only claims those less numbers because if you take this thing to the track, you know, really give it some, do 10, 12 hard laps, when this engine gets very, very, very hot, that's when it'll drop down to 450 over the 537. So this is a beast right here, and I can't wait to get this thing out. All right, now just coming down to the wheels on the XR8 Sprint. Now, these are 19-inch wheels. They look pretty nice. They're blacked out. Exact same on the XR6 Sprint as well. Behind the wheel, you've also got large Brembos behind there in the front and the rear, which is really nice to see on a car like this. And just another fun fact about these wheels is that these were actually first seen on the FPV GTE. So Ford didn't have a massive budget when they were making this car, so whatever bits they could, they reused. Now just coming to the back of the XR8 Sprint. Nice little spoiler up here. It's blacked out, looks really nice. You know, you've got your badging down here as well, just basic stuff, you know, simple taillights again. Diffuser, like to see that. And then of course we've got quad exhaust. So take a listen to this thing. Now, just in the XR8 Sprint now, this is really the same car as the XR6 Sprint, as you can imagine, though one major and one really good difference, this has a 6-speed manual. So we've got a proper, true manual, and I could not be happier. This is the reason why you get an XR8 Sprint over the XR6, because just being able to control it with a manual is just so, so good. Now, just in the gauge cluster, very simple gauges. You know, these are just analog, and I like that. You know, this is a simple car, and it should be, you know, have simple stuff. You know, simple analog gauges, big simple V8 up front, you know, simple manual gearbox, simple e-brake. This is how I like it, and I think a lot of people buy this car because it's just something that's, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And these cars are sort of the last true muscle cars that were ever produced in the world. You know, you come down the middle, like I said, you know, it's the exact same as an FG. So your basic climate control stuff here, traction control off button. So that's something you like to see in a rear wheel drive muscle car. You know, you do get an upgraded infotainment screen here. So this had Sync 2, I believe. And it's a nice system, you know, it's easy to use. It's a touch screen, it's responsive, fairly simple stuff. Now, just in the back seats, there's plenty of room back there, enough to comfortably sit 3 adults. You know, they're finished in the same beautiful material like up the front. And you also get a couple of climate control vents, which is nice to see. We've got matte pockets behind the seats. So all in all, it's a really nice back seat. Now, the interior quality overall in this car, it does lack. You know, especially for a 2016, and at this price point of, you know, $60,000 new these cars were, it definitely leaves more to be desired. You know, they've tried to make it feel a little bit more fancy with these seats and that, but, you know, you instantly know they didn't spend much time in here. You know, the only good thing you can say from that is at least they used their money wisely and put it into the engine and the internals. But it would have really been nice to have seen a little bit more detail, you know, like a sunroof in here, or just done some bit better finish. You know, you've got this kind of plastic stuff in the center console here, which is not all that nice looking, you know, and, you know, there's even a little bit of, you know, the finish on this car, some of the plastics pulling up actually. So that is a little bit unfortunate with the final fit and finish of it. But, you know, look, at the end of the day, this was sort of an affordable, or at least an attainable car for the average person, and to get, you know, well over 500 horsepower in a stock car for that price is pretty impressive by any means. But anyways, enough about what's in here. Let's get this thing out on the road and see what this supercharged V8 can really do. All right, guys, so driving this 2016 XR8 Sprint, and I gotta tell you what, like, this is a true muscle car. It really is. You know, and to see sort of like a modern take on a muscle car like this is just so, so cool. There are very, very few cars, you know, that are this new that still keep to this kind of muscle car tradition. Just easing on the throttle here. Wow. I'll tell you what, this thing picks up speed bloody quick. And, you know, that was a very, very timid start. And holy crap. You know, this is a serious car. And this is a car that will catch you out, you know, if you flat foot this thing and you're not prepared for how quick this will actually go, because it's deceiving. And once you're, you know, fully depressed on that throttle, man, this thing is quick. Leave it to the Australians, you know, because this is just such a crazy car, you know, this big 4-door sedan. You know, it's super basic inside, you know, basic engine as well, really. It's just pure, simple joy. And leave it to the Aussies to make something like this in 2016. This thing is just awesome. And oh man, this thing has torque. Like, anywhere in the rev range, you know, you put your foot into it and she goes instantly. And you hear that supercharger as well, which is really nice. You always want to hear that supercharger. And man, this thing feels good. God, you gotta love a good XR8. Now let's get into the 5 questions here. So, sound. Well, oh yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest. From the inside, I think it could sound better, but from the outside, I know this thing does sound really, really good. Really mean and aggressive. You know, you heard it from when I revved the engine. It sounds bloody good, but it is a little bit quiet and down inside. Hearing that supercharger whine as well is just music to my ears. So all in all, this thing sounds bloody good. Now, practicality is strong really in a car like this. You know, it's a large sedan. There's plenty of room in the boot, plenty of room inside, you know, comfortably sit 5 adults. Easy to work on these cars, you know, fairly reliable. Now, the only thing this is really going to hinder you on is obviously fuel consumption is going to be big. But if you're worried about fuel consumption in a car like this, well, it's probably not the car for you then, because yeah, this is going to drink the gas. But hey, it's a muscle car, it's a big V8 supercharged, so that's to be expected. Now, price. Well, brand new, this thing would have ran you $59,990 if you got the manual version. I believe it was $62,500 or something if you got the auto. And this is just an absolute bargain in my mind. But then again, good luck if you actually got it for that money, because just about every dealer was going to try and charge you a lot more for this. Now, if you're looking to purchase a car like this on the used market, well, there's plenty of variation, obviously, depending on condition, Ks, but if you're going to get a good condition one with low Ks, you know, expect to pay around that $60,000 mark. So it's kind of gone back up to what they were from the dealer. And in all honesty, there's people starting to post these at stupid money, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000. And, you know, if I'm being honest, I think in the very near future, that's what these cars are going to run. Now, handling. Well, this thing handles surprisingly well for a big car. You know, you take it around a nice, sharp little corner like this, and very little roll, to be honest. It's still a big car. You still know this is a big car when you drive it, but Ford's done a really good job with the suspension. You know, it's very comfortable on these country roads when you're driving normally, and when you're giving it a bit in a corner, it does hold its own quite well. Now, 0 to 100 impressions. Let's just pull up onto this back road here. I'm going 10 Ks an hour. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is not being run in yet. It's still only got 400 Ks on the engine, roughly, so I don't want to redline this car too much. So, just going from a dig here. 3, 2, 1, go. 100! Wow, you know, like, it's super quick. You know, 537 horsepower. That's crazy numbers, you know, from a factory Ford that sits 5 adults is just insane. So, you gotta love this thing. You really just gotta love it. And just easing on the gas. Oh man, and you get that traction control light coming on the closer you get to 100. And, oh man, this is just so much fun. Now, would I have an XR6 Sprint or would I take the XR8 manual? This is such a hard question, guys, because I love the Barra. The Barra is my favorite engine Australia ever produced, and man, I love that thing. I really do. But if I'm being honest with myself here, I'm probably would say I would pick the XR8 Sprint because it's manual, and that's got to be the reason. This thing is fast as hell. It's fun to change the gears, loud, you know, supercharged. It's got to be the XR8 Sprint for me, and that's a hard call. It really is a hard call for me, but if I was gonna get a Barra, I want to modify it. I want to, you know, tune it. And if you're gonna get a limited edition car like this, you really don't want to mess around with it all that much. So in my eyes, I would get the XR8 Sprint, and then I would just go out and get an FG and mod the hell out of it. So that's my idea, guys. I don't know if you'd agree with me, but I love this manual transmission. I love the V8 sound. I love the supercharger. And yeah, the fact that this is a manual, that's what won me over. This is a fantastic car, and Ford really did a good job. And the rest of the world has got to be so jealous, because this is such a true car that's just still at its bare bones. You know, there's not that much technology in here. There's not many, you know, assists or anything, and you know, you can turn the traction control off. It's rear wheel drive. You know, everything is just so basic, and I love that. And the fact that this thing is, you know, a big supercharged V8, you just don't get this stuff anymore. And I know for a fact the Americans will be upset they didn't get this. People in the UK, people in Europe, they will be upset. And I would be too. I'll tell you what. I'm so fortunate to be living here in Australia, and to be able to review these cars, especially for you guys, is just an honor. And I thank you guys so much for watching. But anyways, I'm going to finish the video off here today, guys. Huge thanks to the owner, Brian, for allowing me to take out his pride and joy. You know, this thing is brand new still, you know, only 400 Ks on the clock. And for him to trust me to take it out, I can't thank you enough, mate. So I really do appreciate it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. This thing is an absolute monster, one of the last true blue Aussie muscle cars, and this thing is a beast. So if you like this review, guys, please remember to hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you're new here, and we'll see you on that next video.